We're live from the Built Ford Tough Studio. Friday. It is the Boomer and Geo program without Boomer and without Geo, as the boys will be back on Tuesday. I like what Chris said before during the warm-up show, or maybe it was Mike. This is like the radio New Year as we get started after this weekend and after Labor Day. We've got week 1 of the National Football League. We've got, other stuff. We got Zoo, we got Fleegs, we got CeeLo, and, of course, we've got you at 877-337-6666 on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. As I have been for the last couple of days, and joined by the one and only Joe Beningo, who enjoyed the day golfing yesterday. Glorious weather. Joe, how are you?
Stellar weather, bro. Stellar weather.
Go out there and shoot 68?
For 9.
For 9. That's all right.
No, it was a little better than that. I was okay. I mean, I didn't play great yesterday, but it is what it is. I don't get crazy.
Out there playing.
I was live out there playing, hitting the ball good off the tee. You know, it's after that it gets to be a scramble sometimes. But
don't we all know it?
You know,
it can be a scramble.
You know how it is.
I do know how it is, and I also know that we are looking at the 2023 NFL season. And I got to tell you, I would say even as recently as a month ago, when the Mets started their swoon, the Yankees were, they were kind of playing okay baseball.
Hanging on.
Yeah, hanging on is a good word. They were a few games over 500, not really a threat, but you never knew. When Judge came back, could they kind of take off? And it was like, all right, we got to get to football season. And part of me was like, I'm not really ready for it. But over the last few weeks, and specifically the last, I would say 9 or 10 days, I'm ready for it. Like, let's go. And part of that, too, feeling that way was the preseason is just such a bore.
Terrible. Preseason's terrible.
And I know it's important for the coaching staffs and for what they have to do with their rosters, but God, is it just awful to watch. But now I'm ready. And, you can even credit Aaron Rodgers, Jihad Ward with a little bit of the back and forth the last couple of days. I know the Jets aren't playing the Giants next week, but it does add to what we were talking about yesterday. When they do play in late October, it's another layer to it. And how about this quote? I don't know if you saw the papers or not this morning, but how about this quote from Aaron Rodgers, which is just, I don't know. It's unbelievable. He's talking about living inside of a dream and how every time he wakes up, you wake up, usually the dream's over, and yet here he is still here living the dream. Like, that's your quarterback of your team that is going to be in the Hall of Fame, that is still playing, we believe, at an incredibly high level, and that's your guy.
Hey, and win. That's all I can tell you. Look, I'm thrilled. I said this yesterday. Rodgers has said everything right you could possibly say from the moment he walked onto Florham Park and said, that Super Bowl III trophy is getting pretty lonely there, And, he said everything right. I mean, you could see, you see him. I mean, this guy's running the show. This guy's telling Sauce Gardner how to, what to do, playing corner. So, look, I'm excited, but they got to win. I'm excited. But I'm nervous, too, because starting a week from Monday, there's going to be tremendous pressure every game. I'm telling you right now. I mean, and I've said this a million times as a Jet fan, I don't enjoy watching the games at all.
I'm sure I believe that.
I don't enjoy it. I'm sitting there riveted to every play, but I'm not enjoying it. I'm suffering. I don't enjoy it till the game's over. When the game's over and we won, then I enjoy it. I look back, I break it down in my mind and all of that. But, watching the games is painful.
I will tell you, though, in terms of the pressure, you got the right guy under center. I don't know that pressure is going to get to him. And I don't know that this team, they're too young to me to be concerned about outside pressure. If you want to tell me this was a veteran-laden team that had, been in the playoffs but never could take that extra step, and it was a team that was expecting to win, and I know this team does expect to win, but it's that youthful exuberance that they have. Now you've got the guy in there that's here to kind of lead them into the promised land. To me, it makes sense. And I don't know. You think Sauce Gardner is worried about pressure? I don't.
No, I don't think they're worried about pressure at all. But it's the pressure. I don't think the players look at it as pressure. I think the fan base.
I agree with that. Yes,
looks at it with heavy pressure. Like I said, I mean, I'm very excited for the season, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm going to be at the Buffalo game. It's funny. I always feel less pressure when I'm at the game than when I'm watching it at home. I don't know why that is.
I think because of the entire experience. When you're at home, it's you, maybe Terry, and the TV.
Right.
And it's you alone in your own thoughts, and you're just staring at that TV, and you're trying to figure out why in the hell did they throw that pass to that,
Right.
And I think when you're at the game, it's a different experience. It's the drive. It's the tailgate. It's you're talking to people. It's loud. It's noisy. Did I really just see that right? Can I get a replay? I think your mind is in so many different places when you're at the event as opposed to why. It's also why, when you look at or think about big games, for whatever fan of a team you're at, I would prefer, especially football, much prefer to be left alone and watching it on TV. I feel like I get the sense of the game better in terms of play and the replay, and I don't know. It's different. Yet I love the game day experience.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, watching the games on TV. I mean, I'm locked in. I mean, when the Jets are playing, I go downstairs. I got the big TV, big screen TV down in the basement. And we go from there. So, but I like going to the games. I do like going to the games, but I will say that I do prefer sitting at home and watching on television.
And I think that's a lot of football fans too. Now, you talk about expectations. You had Joe Shane meet the media yesterday, as did Joe Douglas. And Douglas, I thought, was great. We're not running from anything. Like, we know what we have put on paper in terms of this roster. We know what's going to be on the field. Now it's up to us to go do it, and not to sit here and harken back to the Nets. But there is a sense of when you do the things that they did, you do put the X on your back. You are the mark team. You are the team that everybody wants to beat. Didn't work out for the Nets. I really do get the sense it's going to work out for this team, but they got to go out and show it, of course.
Well, look, the first game is a big game right away. I mean, look, they're not dead if they lose to Buffalo. Obviously, there's 16 games to go. The season is eternal now, but even though it goes by like a nanosecond. But that's a game. As I've said, I've been saying this all summer long. You cannot have the hype that this franchise has had with Rodgers and everything surrounding it, the hard knocks, all of this, all the expectations, and then show up Monday Night Football, standalone game, national TV audience at home against a division opponent and lose. I'm sorry, you need to win that game.
Give me, over the years, the other seasons you've gone into feeling like this. I know there's not a lot of them.
They haven't really worked out great. Well, the last season I felt like this was probably 2011.
Okay,
after they went to the back-to-back AFC Championship games. And I felt pretty good going into that. I liked our team. And, I thought we really were on our way. And obviously, it didn't work out. They went 8-5. They crapped out the last 3 games of the year. Victor Cruz, and they haven't recovered from that. Before that, certainly 99, and I was in the building as Vinny tears his Achilles up on the open on the first series of the game.
It was right around the goal line, right? Wasn't that around the goal line?
I don't know if it was, but what happened on the play, I believe Curtis Martin actually fumbles, and I don't know if Vinny recovered it or whatever happened there, but whatever, it didn't matter. Whatever, he gets hurt. And the other one was after they went to the AFC Championship game in 1982, and they lost, and then lost to Miami, and then had a terrible year the following year.
Now, the year they won with Namath,
went 7-9.
What was the feeling of the team going in? Do you remember? I know you were a kid. You were 15. Yeah. What was the feeling of that team going in?
I felt we were going to win again. I was
no. Going into the Super Bowl year, prior to winning. I'm saying going into the Super Bowl. Did you know that you had a team that was ready to win a title?
They went in 1967. They went 8-5-1. They got off. I believe they started the season 7-2-1 that year. And then kind of faded. Namath, remember, that's the year Namath got his jaw broken by the combination of Ike Lassiter and Ben Davidson with the Raiders, and actually played the last game of the regular season against the Chargers with a wired jaw. and he, I don't know, he threw like 3 touchdown passes. They won that game, but they wound up blowing the division that year. They were 8-5-1. The Houston Oilers wound up winning what they called the AFL East that year, and then got killed by the Raiders in the championship game. But I thought we were going to be pretty good. I mean, going into 68, I didn't know they were going to win a Super Bowl, but I figured they were going to be a pretty good team. I figured, hey, this has got to, some way or another, this is a playoff team.
So is this as cautiously optimistic as you've been?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because I think this is the best team on paper I've seen probably since, the team, the 98 team.
Yeah, see, I agree, because when the 98 team, really good, and this is the feeling I had going into 99. For me, it's the same. And I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember the roster like you do. But I look at this roster, and I come back to this question. Where's the weakness?
Yeah.
Like I see a team.
Maybe the offensive line. Maybe.
But I disagree. I
Yeah,
think the offensive
maybe.
line is good.
Maybe.
I think they're going to be good. I actually don't think it's much of a 2 weeks ago, maybe a question mark. As they've gotten healthier and as they'll be there next week, I think they're going to be fine. I think both lines are good. I think they're solid defensively. Clearly, really good.
Well, the linebacker position, I mean, I don't know. I think Mosley's a little overrated, but that's me. I mean, I don't see how many big impact plays he really makes. I like what Quincy Williams brings to the table. He's good. I don't know if the guy Sherwood's going to start on the other side. I mean, you could look at that as maybe a little bit of a weakness.
But we're nitpicking.
Yes. No, we are. No, we're definitely nitpicking.
Like, you've got a team that should be able to either put up 35 points when needed or hold another offense down to whatever it is, 15, 14
Even the kicking
points.
game is good. Zerline's a good kicker.
Should be good.
What's his name? Morstead is a good kicker. Did I say his name right?
Yeah, Morstead.
Yeah, Thomas
They
Morstead.
should be. I mean, when you look at this team as a whole, they, to me, have the complete package.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to come back to
And
the
hopefully
coach,
the
you
coach
can
is the
come
right
back
guy.
to the coach.
Hopefully.
The reason why I don't think that's much of an issue is because of the coach that's on the field. And I think that takes care and will
No
whatever
question.
deficiencies
That's
he
true.
has should be masked by having the coach on the
That
field.
is true. And obviously
that's why it's different to me.
And obviously health is always
listen,
is always the biggest issue in the NFL.
There is nothing that you can ever say about health, and usually the healthier teams standing at the end are the teams that are standing at the end for a reason.
Right.
If Aaron Rodgers gets injured week 3, all bets are off. We know this.
Yeah.
So you go into a season, you assume that everybody's going to stay healthy. We know they're not. You just hope that your guys do, and other teams have the issues while
and
you
I
aren't.
tell you, you know what? And honestly, they came out of camp pretty healthy. I mean, they really did.
Yeah.
So you got to be pretty happy about that.
Now, on the other side, you've got the Giants who, we've talked about, kind of just plotting along here, very quietly going about their business. I did think, while Joe Douglas yesterday was talking about the expectations and the X on the back and all this stuff, and I thought he said all the right things, I'm not saying Joe Shane said anything wrong yesterday by any stretch. Matter of fact, he kind of played it the way they've gone about their business. We're the Giants. You'll see when we get out there. We're going to do what we do, and we're going to win a lot of games, but we're not going to make headlines. But I did think when Shane was asked the question about are we going to see, the question was, can we expect more big plays from Daniel Jones this year? Now, this is a kid who I sat here last year before the season began, and I was a big fan of his. And I know people were running him out of town.
I like him. I like him a lot.
I said, I'm telling you, the kid can play. I really did believe that. Now, did I think he'd end up with the contract he did? No, but I didn't think his Giant career was automatically over after he played last season, and that turned out to be right. He got himself the contract. But when you're asked that question, he gets the contract. You've got Barkley back. You've really created some depth at the wide receiver position. You've got Darren Waller, and his answer was a very, we'll see. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that answer.
Right.
It ain't making any headlines. It's just kind of there. But I would have been like, you know what? We expect him to take a big step forward. You will see what kind of quarterback he is. This is going to be I was taken aback a little bit by that answer. Just very nonchalant.
Yeah. I you know what? I wouldn't put a lot of stock in it. Obviously, Jones is here for the long haul. I mean, the guy got the big contract, $40 million a year, whatever he's making. And I think Jones is good, man. I think he's underrated. I like
too.
him a lot. I mean, he can throw the ball. He didn't have a great amount of weapons last year. He's a tremendous runner. He's one of the best running quarterbacks in football.
Now, the question is, do they let him do that this year?
Well, I mean, I think you have to. I think that's part of his game. I mean, you're taking away a big part of Daniel Jones' game if you can't let him run.
I agree, but you know this league. And when you start paying quarterbacks, players what they're getting paid, all of a sudden that injury risk becomes a big factor.
True.
And sometimes they do dial it back in fear of that big injury, and then what do we do?
Right.
And all of a sudden, he is a different quarterback if he is surely just a pocket passer. Part of what makes him really good, the thing that drives me nuts when people talk about Daniel Jones, they'll talk about, well, he doesn't throw for too many yards, or, his pass per completion's not enough. And do we forget about all the yards he gains on the ground?
Yeah.
You know how many quarterbacks don't do that?
Look.
And all we look at are their passing yards? Like, look at the complete package of what he is as a player. And to me, those numbers stack up not with anybody, but with most.
Well, look, I think he's a lowercase Josh Allen. I think he's a similar type player to what Josh Allen is. I don't think he has the physical ability that Josh Allen has. But I think he's that kind of guy. I mean, he could throw the football, but he kills you with his legs. And so he reminds me a lot of Josh Allen. Not as good, but that kind of player.
Well, and certainly he's got the coach to help him get to that level.
Yep.
And we'll see. And they're going to have, part of why I think the Giants take a little bit of a step back, as I've said many times, is not because I don't think they're a good team. I just think their first part of their schedule is almost unfair with all the travel and it's a bad schedule. Doesn't mean they won't come through it with flying colors. And if they do,
they need to beat the Cowboys opening night. Just
do.
Like the Jets.
I agree.
They've been dominated by Dallas. They've been dominated by Philadelphia in their division. They need to win opening night against Dallas. And then you got a game, against a bad Cardinal team on the road after that. We're looking at the schedule. That 49er game is going to be very tough.
It's very tough, which is why the first game is so important.
Yeah.
It really
it's a huge game for them.
You look at if they lost to the Cowboys week one, you got Arizona there, but then you're looking at the Niners and the Seahawks and then road games in Miami and in Buffalo. And that's the part of all of a sudden that Arizona game becomes
you got to win that game.
It's a must-win anyway.
Yeah, right.
But if they ever didn't win week one, they have to go out and win that game.
Yeah.
In Arizona.
You want to be no worse than 2-2 going to Miami.
Agreed.
I
completely
that's
agree.
where you want to be if you're the Giants.
And that's even my point too. Is 2-2 would be Miami and then Buffalo, or Buffalo then Miami.
No, Miami first.
That's right. So if you even 2-2, those next two on the road, no walk in the park.
No.
I think if you end up,
I'll be rooting hard for them, but no. I'll be a big Giant fan those weeks.
You need them to win both.
Right.
And this is the part where I'm saying if they can just kind of muddle their way through the first 8-9 games, if they were 3-3 through 6, I think you're thrilled. Number one,
you're in good shape
because you have put yourself in shape for the next batch of games where there are a lot more winnable. To me, the schedule is difficult, and if they can figure their way through it and hover around 500, a little bit better than 500, then I think the Giants are going to have a good winter.
I think they're going to be a pretty good offensive team. I think they got a lot of weapons now. Like I said, I like Jones. They got a decent offensive line. We'll see if Neal takes the step that Thomas took on the other side. But I think the offense is going to be pretty good. I don't know what their defense is. I'm not
sure either.
I don't know what the Giant defense is at this point.
Well, we will see soon enough as we get started next Thursday with Thursday Night Football. Then you got the Giants and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football and the Jets and Bills on Monday Night Football. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we've got CeeLo back for this Friday program. We will also have some thoughts from Hal Steinbrenner. We will get to that throughout the course of the morning. A thought for sure and Gil Brandt. And then something I like to call, and you guys are going to love this one with Joe here. Today's edition of Ripped from the Headlines, fantastic. That's coming up as well.
From the headlines.
Oh, that's right. That's coming up,
right.
We'll say the 7 o'clock hour, somewhere along there.
Can't wait.
All that and more. It's Jerry and Joe in for Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.